Minnesota, Representative Paulsen.
Well, I'd like to thank Vice Chair Klobuchar for choosing the topic of today's hearing, building opportunities for veterans. Chairman Brady is occupied with another subcommittee hearing over in the House on the Ways and Means Committee. Every single member of this committee honors the men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces. And since the enactment of the Servicemen's Readjustment Act in 1944, which is popularly known as the GI Bill, Congress has pledged to help veterans pursue their ideal of the American dream. Congress remains committed to helping veterans make a successful transition to civilian life, caring for the wounded, and assisting the disabled and their families. Today's hearing focuses on a key portion of that commitment, helping veterans find jobs. There are numerous federal and state programs that are designed to help veterans secure a college education and training, take advantage of what skills they learned in the armed forces, and then find gainful employment in the private sector. Broadly speaking, employment trends among recent veterans follow employment trends among the entire working-age population. Indeed, the 12-month moving average for unemployment rate for all veterans of 6.7% is slightly lower than the overall unemployment rate of 7.6% in June. Therefore, the general condition of our economy affects the level of employment among veterans as much, if not more, than specific programs designed to help veterans find jobs. The growth gap, which is the difference between economic performance in the current recovery and an average recovery since World War II, is hurting employment prospects of both veterans and non-veterans. This recovery, which is 4 years old this month, is the weakest in 7 decades. Consequently, the United States has $1.2 trillion less today in real GDP and 3.9 million fewer private sector jobs than the United States would have had in an average post-war recovery. In terms of real disposable income per capita, this anemic recovery has generated about $2,800 less in income after inflation and taxes for every American than an average post-1960 recovery would have generated. And why are we suffering from a growth gap? Business investment in new buildings and equipment and software drives private sector job creation. Compared with previous recoveries, real business investment has been weak. After 5 1/4 years, it still remains at 3.9% below its pre-recession peak. A lack of liquidity and high interest rates are not restraining business investment. Commercial banks have over $2 trillion in excess reserves sitting at the Fed that could be lent to America's entrepreneurs. America's non-financial corporations have another $1.5 trillion in cash sitting on the sidelines, and interest rates do remain at historic lows. The Federal Reserve has done all that it can through monetary policy to help this recovery, which we've had some discussion in this committee about. Local businesses continue to tell us over and over again that Washington's tax and regulation and deficit policies, which the President continues to pursue, have also generated uncertainty that is deterring America's entrepreneurs from making the investments that would create millions of good jobs for veterans and non-veterans alike. It was Nobel laureate Albert Einstein who defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And 4 years after an anemic recovery has begun, it's clear that the current mix of economic policies is not working and we can do better. And what can be done to reduce and close the growth gap and ensure that the 21st century isn't another American century? The bottom line is we must get our act together in Congress bipartisanly in 3 major areas of economic policy. 1, we need to reduce federal spending and federal debt as a percentage of our gross domestic product. We need to continue to pursue pro-growth tax and fiscal policies for a healthier economy to give businesses the incentive and confidence to invest in companies, equipment, and people. We need to overhaul the federal regulatory process to ensure necessary regulations are balanced and cost-effective. And then we need to return to a more predictable rules-based monetary policy that will maintain purchasing power of the United States dollar over time. Those basic changes will spur the U.S. economy and help our veterans find gainful employment. And to that end, earlier this year, I partnered with the Army to host a job fair in Minnesota, and as Senator Klobuchar well knows and mentioned, the Minnesota National Guard has been implementing new programs with a great rate of success, putting a focus on getting our veterans back to work. I'm also proud of our Minnesota employers like Excel, who's testifying here today. They do represent why Minnesota is a leader when it comes to taking care of our veterans, including hiring initiatives. I also want to thank all the witnesses for being here today, and I look forward to hearing your testimony.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Glucci.